to the Bleachers. I'm Jason. He's Roger. We've got breaking sports news for you today. But first, an announcement about the contest winner in our new show name. Roger, take it away.
Thanks, Jason. We have officially have a new show name, and it's called The Cheap Seats. And we want to thank everybody. And there were multiple votes in. I think we had about 30 total votes. And the winning choice was The Cheap Seats. So that's what we're going to call ourselves. The Cheap Seats. I'm Roger. He's Jason, as we just said. We are going to start a trivia quiz. Each show, we're going to give out a trivia question. Now, this first one was actually done on our Cheap Seats Facebook page. We invite you to please respond and invite you to join, if you haven't already got an invitation, to go on Facebook, The Cheap Seats. It's just Cheap Seats. You can invite yourself or have already been invited. Join us. Our question, and we just posted yesterday, so we didn't have a great response, but we have 3 winners. The question, pretty simple for Cincinnati sports fans, especially the older guys like myself. Who holds the Major League record for the most hits in a career, and what team did he play for? We also want to know who the pitcher was who delivered that game record-breaking hit, and what team did he play for, and what date this happened. Jason, you should know this, being a native Cincinnatian, at least the answer to the record-breaking.
There's only one guy named the Hit King.
And that is correct, and we know that is...
Well, am I supposed to tell the answer, or are they supposed to guess it?
No, we've already got 3 winners.
Oh, you've already got 3 winners. That's Pete Rose.
Yeah, Pete Rose. Pete Rose out of Cincinnati Western Hills High School.
I don't know who the pitcher was, though.
We want to congratulate Chris M. We're not giving last names, but Chris M., John W., and Dan C. All
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, congratulations. All 3 of those got all the answers. There were a lot that had just part of the answer. One actually wasn't old enough, but he knew it was Pete Rose, but he didn't know all the particulars. I remember that night I was playing a softball game, and I had been to the 2 prior games, actually, before he broke the record, and he went like 0 for 4 those 2 games. I have a softball game on a Wednesday. We listened to the record-breaking hit. I wasn't there, but so be it. So next, if you want to join on our trivia question, join Cheap Seats. The question will be on there. There's no winners or anything. You get your name announced on the air, and that's about it. No prizes, at least to this point in time. We're just doing it for the fun of it and see how many people get it right. So
you
now
get bragging rights.
Bragging rights in your home family. That's correct. We're now going to go to
Top news.
Top news. And there's not a whole lot of top news. Baseball's still in a stalemate. I think that's going to take a while for them to figure it out. But we wanted to just touch real quickly also with the free agents out there in the NFL. And there's some big names still out there.
And we'll get more into that a little later, right?
We are going to get into that a little later. It's just a matter of right now. There's a lot of still big names out in the NFL. Baseball news, as we just said, hundreds of players were cut in the minors and more expected. That's a sad thing because a lot of these guys with aspirations of being in the major leagues are not going to be able to get as good a chance now with all this.
They might join the KBO. Who knows? Maybe the KBO will expand, or the Japanese baseball started too, right?
Exactly. Japanese is starting as well as the Korean, as we know, is already going. The state of Texas, now this is interesting, and this is all the sports, but mainly baseball, that they're going to allow 25% capacity to their stadium to attend pro sporting events. And that would, of course, include the Houston Astros are indoors, but they would still have to adhere to it. The Texas Rangers and the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. All 4 of those teams would be in that situation.
So I'm okay with that. I think having all of the fans there, of course, it's not going to be possible because the seats are so close, but having some should be fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. NBA news, right now, the latest we hear is that, or at least that I hear, is that the NBA looks like they're going to play possibly in 2 sites. The East will play in Orlando. The West will play in Las Vegas. They will determine a West-East Conference Finals for the NBA title to be determined where they'll play a championship. But it'll probably, I'm assuming, going to be Orlando and or Las Vegas. So that's the latest for the NBA that we have as far as, getting back. Right now, it looks like a July return.
Everything's going to be July.
Yeah. Right now, it looks like July is going to be about the time. We said we're going to get into free agency, but really, it was a funny comment that Melvin Gordon made, just as a sort of a sideline here. He of the Los Angeles Chargers from last year, now with the Denver Broncos, made a comment that he is all set for no fans because he played in L.A. and there weren't many Los Angeles Charger fans there. They were mostly the other team's fans are, rooting. So he's sort of making a comment, tongue in cheek, I'm sure, but he's used to no fans rooting for the home team. In this case, there wouldn't be any fans, but before there were more fans rooting for the other team. So I thought that was sort of neat. The NHL, for the example, now the NHL is fully set for a return probably the 1st of July, and they're going to have a 24-team playoff. That is official, Jason. We have talked about that a little in the past. It is official that the NHL will have 24 teams. Top 4 teams from each conference will have a bye. The remaining 8 teams will play each other to determine the 4 teams to be playing the top 4 seeds. I think that's a great idea, considering the fact that 24 is a good number to go with. It's a lot.
And we talked about that last show.
Yeah, we did. But it is now official. So that is set for that. Awards were presented last night in the NHL. It's sort of weird to have awards, before the actual season is over. But they were.
Well, the season is over. That's just the playoffs that's not finished.
Yeah, exactly. But they based the awards off the most of the awards, at least, off the regular season. So that's really it. We're going to go to you for your favorite sport, and that is soccer. Jason and his soccer pitch.
Okay, but before I do that, I got to get ready for that. Hold on. Okay. There we go. We're getting there. Yep.
I hope for the sake of our audience, you're not taking off too much more.
Yeah, no, just my Bayern München jersey, that's all. Yeah. Okay. So, you ready, Roger?
Go ahead.
You ready for the soccer pitch?
Go ahead, Jason.
Joshua Kimmich scored the only goal in the Classico match, giving Bayern München the 1-0 win over Borussia Dortmund. Kimmich is a German national team midfielder who started life at Bayern as a fullback until the addition of Benjamin Pavard this season. Another young addition to watch his 19-year-old Canadian left back, Alphonso Davies, as he uses breakneck speed to open up the left side. He's already scored 2 goals with 5 assists during this Bundesliga season. This is his first season. Borussia Dortmund's roster is filled with experienced German national team members like midfielder Marco Reus, Super Mario Götze, and former Bayern center back Mats Hummels. The wonder kid on this team is the 20-year-old Jadon Sancho, an English midfielder who was transferred from Manchester City in 2017. Freiburg versus Bayer Leverkusen should be a great matchup today. That's going on as we record this. Leverkusen has the Bender twins, Lars and Sven, both German national team alumni, on defense, along with Jonathan Tah. Kai Havertz is a great attacking midfielder with potential to be special. At just 20 years old, he's already a dominant force with 10 goals this season, which I expect to increase today. 22-year-old Jamaican forward Leon Bailey is also making his presence felt with 5 goals. Leverkusen is a stacked team with lots of youth and speed on the pitch. Freiburg is no slouch either, though, marked by 21-year-old Luca Itter on defense and a host of capable midfielders, topped off by forward Luca Waldschmidt at age 24, who has 5 goals this season. Tomorrow's biggest matchups include Wolfsburg versus Frankfurt, Schalke versus Werder Bremen, and top of the table between Bayern München taking on Fortuna Düsseldorf at Allianz Arena in München. Sunday is marked by 2 important matchups in the race to qualify for UEFA's Champions League, with second-place Borussia Dortmund taking on SC Paderborn and third-place Red Bulls Leipzig taking on FC Köln in the battle of 2 teams. That's Timo Horn in goal for Cologne and Timo Werner striking probably more than a few shots on target for Leipzig. Both are German national team members. Werner has 24 goals this season, while Horn has 75 saves. Not only is a shot at the Bundesliga title in contention for Leipzig and Dortmund, but in Borussia Mönchengladbach isn't out of the picture yet. And you can bet they're hungry for a win against FC Union Berlin early Sunday morning. In South Korea, at the top of the K-League table is Jungbo Hyundai Motors with 9 points, followed by Ulsan Hyundai Tigers with 7 points, and FC Seoul and third place with 6 points, tied with Sangju City FC. I won't go into detail as much on the K-League since it's hard to watch in America, but most Bundesliga's matches are broadcast by Fox Sports. That's your soccer pitch. Back to you, Roger.
Okay, Jason is the expert between the two of us on soccer. What can I say? And that wasn't too bad, actually. Could you do that backwards? Okay, we got you. Rogers Rants.
Time for Rogers Rants. First topic is ticket prices for the big leagues.
Ticket prices for the big leagues. I'm assuming that you're thinking that they are too much for some venues, and I'm going to go with the answer of there are some prices that are probably too expensive for your common person, especially this year with what the economy has been. But there's always, good deals to be had if you wait long. That's the trick. Wait long. I tell people, if you want to go to a game really badly, miss the first 5 minutes, you can get to be continued.
Were sports better in the past? Go.
Were sports better in the past compared to the present? I think so. I grew up in the 60s, 70s, and I think it was strictly a game back then. Now it's so much of a business, and whether that's good or bad, the players are making a lot of money, the owners are making a lot of money. It's all relative to the era that we live in now, but I would take the old days where it was just go out to the old ballpark, have a good old time, not have to worry about this guy coming back.
Favorite pitcher of all time? Go.
You love using that buzzer, I know.
I'm timing.
Greatest pitcher of all time. Well, I'm going to be a little biased here. I'm going to go with Sandy Koufax. He had a shorter career than a lot. I believe he had 10 years in the major leagues, all with the Brooklyn/LA Dodgers. I think a lot of people would say him. I'm going to go with Sandy Koufax.
All right. Didn't need the buzzer for that one. Lefties versus righties in baseball.
Oh, God. You hit a sore spot for me. I hate it. I do not like the multiple pitching changes, and they're going to change because now you have to face at least 3 batters when you come in to relieve. I think if you're good enough pitcher, you can get a lefty or righty out. I understand the matchups they want, but I hate it when a guy strikes out 2 consecutive batters and then the coach comes out, manager comes out, takes him out to face the righty or lefty. Stick with the pitcher.
Okay. Didn't need the buzzer for that one. Got close, though. So just real quick on that, they actually did change the rules, so you do have to have three batters, right?
Yeah, 3 batters you have to face. Which I don't like that rule either, but that's another story.
Well, it's better than the one-hit wonder. Okay, so topic number 5. And we might have talked about this, I don't know. Pro wrestling, sport or entertainment? Go.
Good topic, and I think we'll get into this a little bit later on in the as we go along with the shows. I think that wrestling is purely entertainment, but you do have to be athletic to be in the ring to a degree. Now, you do have a lot of big guys that aren't in relatively great shape and others that are really in good shape, but when you bang around the ring like they do and fly off the ropes and onto the pavement and all outside the ring, I think you have to be athletic, but it's strictly entertainment. It is not sports. It is all pre-recorded, if you will, preset on who's winning and losing.
Okay, I didn't even have to use it on that one. That's amazing. All right. NASCAR. Will it be electric? Go.
Will it be electric? I don't see it. again, I'm old school. I think NASCAR should stay as it is. It's, got a great fan base. It might use it as sort of an off the wall type of activity or race, maybe once in a blue moon to sort of change things up, but not on a regular basis. I don't like to play with something that's successful, and the NASCAR is pretty successful. They have very passionate.
All right. Offense or defense, go.
Offense or defense, go. Not sure what this is referring to, but I'll give it my best shot. I'm going to take it to a point of I'd like to see more offense and less defense. I love defensive-minded games necessarily, but at the same time, everybody likes to see scoring, I think. Now, not to say a 0-0 game in hockey or soccer is going to be boring, because you might have 100 chances and your goaltending and defense comes up with big plays at the right time. But I'm still going to go with offense over defense. It's just more fun to watch.
Well, you just made it. Explain the lines behind the goal in hockey.
Explain the lines behind the goal in hockey. Well, this is funny because being a passionate hockey fan, I've always thought about not having offsides or icing. So you could literally have a guy right in front of his net the whole game. Of course, you'd be one man short back at the other end, but you got the center line, you got the blue lines, and you've got the end lines at the goalie. So those are the three main lines. But I'm open to having a guy sort of like cherry picking basketball. It'd be interesting.
Okay, I was referring to the lines that are actually behind the goal.
The lines behind the goal.
Yeah.
I didn't
like they go up at it. Never mind. All right. Next
Scratch
topic.
That one.
Boxing or UFC?
I don't like either. But if I'm going to pick one or the other, I'm going to go with boxing because UFC didn't really have anything going, I don't think, when I was growing up. Boxing, you think of Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston, Ezra Charles right here in Cincinnati, Aaron Pryor in Cincinnati. I'm not a fan of either. I'll occasionally watch a boxing match. UFC doesn't really do much for me. I know it's widely popular, both men and women. So, but I'm sticking with boxing.
Well, you hit it just in time. That wraps up Roger's rants for today.
Good choices today. Good choices.
I got like 20 more, but we're not going to do it today. Those are for later. And now we're going to talk about NFL free agency. Some of the top choices, Roger. I mean, some guys that are still out there. You got Jadeveon Clowney, Cam Newton, Devontae Freeman, Clay Matthews. Who else?
Well, Logan Ryan's another big name, and there's a lot of still, pretty decent players out there. And Clowney and Newton, I think, are the two big guys. Newton's going to have to. The question on Cam Newton is he going to be able to, be a backup somewhere? I don't think he's going to be a starter, especially in the situation that we're in, that he's not going to have much practice time. Clowney obviously is a pass rusher, so he could probably fit in anywhere.
And with him, the rumor was that he turned down a huge deal with the Browns, a huge long-term deal.
Yeah,
now, we don't know the details of if that was what big deal is, but I've heard that he turned down a deal with the Browns. Whether there's any truth to that, I don't know. Maybe they're still negotiating. Maybe there's other teams looking at him. I mean, what other teams do you think he would fit in? I mean, the Browns would probably be good because he'd have on the other side, you'd have Myles Garrett. You'd have maybe the Ravens.
Well, the Ravens are looking for a pass rusher. That's been their one sort of weakness. They don't have many weaknesses, but that is one of their weaknesses is pass rush. So Clowney could end up, there. I'm sure there's a few other teams, but, with him, it's more the money. With Cam Newton, it's more, will he fit into a position of being a backup? Joe Flacco, by the way, he just signed with the New York Jets, so he's out. And, that's a decent pickup. I mean,
Yeah, I think he's bringing in a veteran Super Bowl winning quarterback to back up Sam Darnold and mentor him is probably that's the best move that the Jets could make right now.
I think you're right. I think Andy Dalton going to the Dallas Cowboys was a good move for them, especially Prescott. Who knows? I mean, he's asking big bucks. Jason Bailey numbers. That's big.
Wow, he's yeah. So I guess the contract that they had offered him last would have made him like the highest paid quarterback ever or something. And yet people are still like, pay Dak Prescott. It's not enough money. And I'm like, he's not that good. Has he even won? They haven't won a championship yet, have they? With him?
Have not only. I saw a statistic the other day. Last year, he was just awful against 500 team or playoff teams. I take that back. He was awful against playoff teams. Now, when I say he, I mean Dallas. So you can't always put the blame, but their offense
is a good quarterback, but
he's not those numbers. He's not those numbers. I think he is a good quarterback. I don't think he is a great quarterback.
I don't think he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, or should be.
No, I agree with you there. As far as Clowney goes, I think he should get paid. He's looking for that big money, and he's proven that he is a disruptive force on the defensive line. Devontae Freeman, we mentioned him. You know, he's a middle of the road type of running back. He's had his good years, but you know,
I think he's at least up there with, say, Joe Mixon.
I don't know if I put him that high.
The rushing game. You think he's under that?
I think Joe Mixon, and that's another situation. We're just talking free agents. You know, Joe Mixon, I believe at the end of this year, he can be tagged franchise player, but
well, I think they tagged. They used their tag on.
Well, AJ Green this year, but I'm talking next year. Next year, possibly. I think his time would come. So it'll be interesting. I think there's a lot of. And who knows if there's going to be a season. A lot of people are saying, there'll be a season for sure. Well, you know, we don't know that. I don't think anybody still knows it. Are they set to have a season? Yes, they've had the draft. They're going to start, you know, there have been some camps already open on just the smaller scale. So,
yeah, and I think the Bengals are starting around the 15th of June or something like that.
Yeah, they're doing it in small groups on the field, and they can't have any of it. But it's going to be such an interesting sports season, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, when it all continues.
See, there's one thing for the Bengals that the players and some fans were complaining about, that, you know, the Brown family never spent the money to get an indoor training facility, right? Yeah. Well, this is a situation where an outdoor training facility is probably a benefit to them, because they've got, if they're outside, they don't, you know, have to necessarily be as concerned with, you know, the circulation of the air and all that.
That is true. So maybe the so-called cheapness of Mike Brown
pays off.
But that's a story for another day. So those are the free agents out there. We're approaching when camp would start, so we'll see what happens.
All right. What teams, if any, do you think? Now, I know that Devontae Freeman has said that he's considering just sitting out this whole season, you know, rather than take a bum deal, unlike Andy Dalton, who jumped immediately, you know, on to signing with the Cowboys, which is his hometown team. So it makes sense. I mean, if my hometown team recruited me, I'd probably play for them too, you know, even if
you'd have to get rid of the terrible towels, though. You'd have to get rid of the terrible towels.
Why?
If you were a Bengal?
No.
Okay, we're not getting rid of that. I can tell you.
You know, and you got what? So, real quickly, like Cam Newton, where do you think he might end up, even as a backup, if he goes that route?
You know what? That's really tough to say. I think all the teams are basically pretty well set. The only team that really comes to my mind, and this would be something that I don't know is going to happen, is, you know, you still got the New England Patriots. In the back of my mind, the New England Patriots are going to go with a rookie quarterback. You do have Hoyer as your backup as a veteran, but I just don't know if Cam Newton could fit in as a backup. That's going to be the major issue. He still thinks he could play. His issue is, that's his injury issue rather is the question mark. So I don't know. I think he's going to have to get a cruel dose of reality, and if an offer comes, it's not going to be to his liking, whether it's the money and or the playing time. But if he wants to be in the NFL this season, that's what he's going to have to, take care of.
And I was looking at teams like maybe, you got the Detroit Lions where Matthew Stafford is coming off of a back injury, right?
Correct.
So, maybe they go for the veteran Cam Newton, who could potentially fit into their scheme. That might be a good pickup for them if he's willing to be a backup.
Yeah, well, there's no. I've heard Detroit is a possibility because of Stafford's injury prone the last couple seasons. So it's and we've talked about him going. I think it's more a mental thing as well as a physical thing with him. That he's going to have to fit into a system. That might not have him, running out of the pocket as much as he does. Also, the fact that, as I said before, I think the real thing is he mentally fit to be a backup? That's the main thing.
Right. And, the other thing that I think, Cam Newton, he is a mobile quarterback, granted, but his arm strength is pretty good. It's not like some of the other quarterbacks that you've seen where they, can only throw a 20-yard pass or whatever. So yeah. I think he could adapt, to make up for his injury. Will he get sacked more often? Probably. But, I don't, like you said, I don't think that, running out of the pocket is going to be his style this year.
We will see, because there's a lot of still ifs out there, and it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening.
Yeah, and you've got Clay Matthews still out there. Is he gonna try to sign up with Tampa Bay, you think, and chase a Super Bowl ring with all those old guys?
Well, he's an old guy himself.
33.
Yeah, well, he's approaching his downward slide. I like Clay Matthews. I love his intensity and all that, but he's bounced around a little the last couple of years, going from Green Bay to the Rams, and they let him go. I could see him maybe catching on with a low salary and just be sort of like a part-time player and a guy in the locker room. I love his play and all that, and he's a USC boy, and I used to be a USC fan at one point in time, but I think he could lead a lot to the camaraderie of a team and the leadership quality. Sometimes that's more important than actual talent. I mean, you want a talented player, but if you have a guy who knows his role and can lead the youngsters, Tampa Bay, I'd bring them on. You might have an old folks home there between Brady and Gronkowski's no spring chicken. They have a young team, but other than those two, you bring in Matthews and he'd raise the average age a couple of years, that's for sure. So
yeah, I mean, the only other thing that I was thinking at is if they could get him cheap enough, it might be a good option for the Bengals because they've got a lot of rookies and he could mentor them.
Yeah, but would he want to come here?
Well, there. I'm not there.
Well, he wants to win. I mean, I'm sure he wants to win now because he doesn't have a whole lot of years left in the tank.
That's why I was looking at Tampa Bay for him.
Yeah, Tampa Bay would be a better fix on him. I just don't see a team like the Bengals, a young team that, might have something down the road in a couple, 3 years or so. But I don't see him coming to Cincinnati. But, that's the great thing about talking sports. You just never know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going through GM's minds, coaches' minds, and the players.
And he might just, end up sitting the season out with a lot of guys, probably.
You might have a lot more than you think.
So the next topics that we had were chances of baseball starting up. We kind of talked about that, but the original, I think the last date that they set was, July 4th, and now it's looking like it might be later.
I think the bottom line is, in a nutshell, is both parties, the owners and the players, are really wide apart in what the economy is offering, the pay going to offer and all that. But from what I've heard is there's going to be a baseball season in some form because both parties cannot afford no season. So they're going to come up with something, whether it's an 80-game schedule, 100-game schedule, whether they're playing on their home fields, whether they're playing in Arizona and or Florida. It's going to be, sort of up in the air, but there will probably be some, solution that will, tend to keep both sides, relatively happy.
So they'll work it out. It's going to be a really short season though. If they, yeah, like you said, I mean, it's billionaires and millionaires arguing over pennies.
Well, that's how the common fan, looks at it. But I think, the fans are probably siding more with the players, because if you saw, we're not going to get into the details of their proposal the owners had to the players. It's just ridiculous. The players are going to get, in some cases, you're not being rewarded for being a great player. You're getting cut in pay percentage-wise more than if you were just a, off-the-bat type of player. So it's going to affect, and one other thing that I don't know if we mentioned this our last show or not, that Mike Trout, the superstar out of the Los Angeles Angels, his wife is expecting a baby shortly. Now, is he going to want to put himself in arm's length of, getting, infected and taking it home and all that sort of stuff? So, and he would be one of those that would be definitely inclined to, not want to.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, it's right now we're just in a world of uncertainty still in sports.
Roger, go ahead. Why don't we just wrap this up?
Okay, Jason, again, we want to thank our listeners. Again, Cheap Seats is our Facebook group page. If you want to join in information and prior podcasts, please invite yourself. You've already been invited, a lot of people, but if you're listening to this for the first time, you can join that page. We will have a trivia question actually coming up in just a bit. So it'll be later today when that goes up. You can answer that. We will read your name. There's no major prizes. Maybe we'll give away one of those terrible towels. But that's it on my end. Cheap Seats, great name.
No terrible towel giveaway. All right. Thanks for watching. This has been the Cheap Seats on the Bleachers. I'm Jason. He's Roger. We'll see you next time, probably Tuesday. Bye, everybody.